Let's speak of the Plump Wrestling program
Billowy.
the Billowy and Plump Wrestling program known as AEW Dynamite, which took place on August 14th, 2024 from
Norfolk, Virginia.
That's right. That's where they were.
Boy, howdy. And they must be, at this point, a gluttons for punishment, because why would... They went straight into the ring introductions, no intro, no nothing. They thought, boy, we're going to grab them. And it wasn't MJF. It was Mercedes Moon. The opening match of this program was Mercedes Moon versus Hikaru Shida. So pretty much the most unpopular, and not in a heel way, but just in a, oh, goddamn her again way, the most unpopular person on the roster versus another, now you see her, now you don't girl. She pops up every once in a while, does something, and goes wherever the people that go away go. And how long was this? My God, it was every indie girls match ever with an extra helping of awkward. And I kept hearing a noise throughout the whole match, and it was this clicking, and I realized it was so many channels were changing at the same time I could hear them in my own home. It is entertaining watching Mercedes do the stripper shimmy and act all full of herself while Camille stands there with the stone face, and hopefully Camille will not go down with this ship, because Mercedes is an anchor around her neck.
Well, what did you think about the way she looked and the way she was dressed? You know, from behind for a moment, I almost thought it was Britt Baker from the way she had her hair and from the outfit she was wearing, but they dyed her hair. She used to be blonde. Now she's brunette. Do you think she stands out and is as striking now as she was a few years ago?
Well, not even a few years ago, but just not too long ago, last time I saw her anywhere. She needs to, I don't know if she looks like Britt Baker from behind. Britt Baker.
Well, I think I've seen Britt Baker wear that outfit on the show is what I think.
Okay, well, maybe wearing the same thing, but I don't think Britt Baker has a back you can show a drive-in movie on. But she needs, I think, a more striking look overall, rather than just the fact that she's a good-looking young lady, but she's big. Her size is the... Can we not give her something striking to wear? I'm not saying go for the China look with the leather and chains, but let's have a fucking look there like she's not just wearing her street clothes. Is that maybe what you're going for?
That's a part of it. But again, she used to be blonde. Now she's brunette.
Oh, yeah. Well, and the hair. Well, I didn't notice the particular shade, but I saw that she was darker headed than she is now, which again, I would say she needs hair you can see in a big building, but they're in big buildings, but not anybody is that far away in the big building. It's all blocked off. So maybe I don't know. But anyway, so this match went on. And then finally Camille kind of interfered and Shida hit her with the kendo stick, but Mercedes took the stick from Shida and the referee yelled at her. And while the referee was yelling at her, then Camille just hit a big boot on Shida. And Mercedes did that fucked up finish. So once again, you can't tell who's giving a bump and who's taking a bump. 1, 2, 3, and that was the first 15 minutes of the show. And what millions of dollars, and Camille has to help her beat Shida. Who does Shida? That's the point. When Shawn Michaels was having matches with job guys, did Diesel powerbomb him first? If you use her when it matters, then it gets heat. But if it's just, they do everything because they think that's the way everything's supposed to be done. There's a run-in in every match. There's interference in every match. There's a fight on the floor in every match. There's a goddamn multiple people involved in angles every match, where they're getting heat after the match, whether they've won or lost. It's the same over and over with everything. Ah! Did you hear that?
I heard that. What do you think, statement-wise, what kind of statement is this? That after everything we heard about with the complaints from Britt Baker, or others maybe, the gardener behind me.
The gardener behind you is pissed off, I can tell.
In terms of the women starting off the show with this, giving it a long time to go. You know, the women's segments have not traditionally drawn people to watch the show. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, he gave Mercedes a gimme because the highest rated quarter hour of their program, regardless of who's on it or what they're doing, is the first quarter, which they took up entirely, and then Britt Baker. Britt Baker over on Baker Street, Britt Baker's music played, and I'll get to I'll tell you about this afterbirth, and I'll get to the point of the thought. Camille sees a fan in a mask like Britt did before over the rail in the front row, and pulls her over the rail and beats her up and kicks her. Well, Britt Baker comes in from behind and has a sloppy exchange and puts the lockjaw on Mercedes, and then Camille pulls her out. And then oh my gosh. And the fan that got beat up is never revealed. Never seen again, never mentioned again. Is the fan going to sue? Because they just beat up a fucking innocent person, apparently. And then that's not even referred to.
And we've seen that before, too.
It was... So, this whole thing could have been done in the middle of the show in 7 to 8 minutes to get Mercedes a quick win, which for the good that's going to do because she's a shits. And then do the angle because you're building your match at the fucking big show. But instead, they had between 15 and 20 minutes to just bore the shit out of people and run them off. So, and I'm telling you, that fan, later on in the program, we'll have a number they can call.
Yes, we will.
Yes. Well, this is my show, isn't it?
You usually go from one segment to the other, but we can go.
Yeah, boy, I'd like to go from one segment to the other.
Well, what was the next segment?
Jeff Jarrett and Jay Lethal and Sanjay and Karen are back in the back talking about Hangnail Page when Page comes in and gets in a big fight with Lethal, and they fight to the ring. Out of the interview that never got started, and the referee rings the bell. And they have a match. They are trying desperately to hook people and keep them somehow on board with this shit but they think that if they never stop, if they never take a breath, that they'll, which is true, they'll lose people because nobody cares about their goddamn talent. But now I predict they may run them off quicker because this shit never stops. And you're like, what the fuck? And Lethal hits 5 dives in a row out of the ring. And then Page gives Lethal a dead eye, his finish on the apron of the ring. And then they go over the rail into the audience to fight to go to the break. What the fuck? So then when they came back from the break, they were actually in the ring. And I will say again, Jay Lethal could have been a hell of an addition to the roster if they'd have treated him with any kind of fucking respect from the start. But Tony only books indie level guys like Hangnail on top instead of professionals. And Hangnail won with a buckshot lariat 1, 2, 3. What else is there to say?
About this? I mean,
yes, or the state of your goddamn stock portfolio. Anything you care to discuss?
I don't really care to share any of that information. What I want to say is, the last few ratings have been pretty bad, and that was with strong competition. I don't think it's as big or as bad the competition this week, but this show was so bad. with no star power and nothing in advance that looked like it would make you want to watch it. No MJF, no Will Ospreay. They had a video, but that's the hottest and the biggest program in the company, and it was barely even referenced or mentioned. Kyle Fletcher. Poor follow-up for everything they tried to do with him last week. Right? I mean, if they're trying it with him, was there any follow-up at all this week?
Was that shown or mentioned? Or maybe in one of these packages that, because, Osprey's grinding, so he couldn't be there. He's out grinding. And I guess MJF's probably making him another movie.
He's grinding Tony's weed is what he's grinding.
Well, yeah, they had the video of MJF beating somebody in England. And whoever the guy was that he was beating in England looked very malnourished, and his girlfriend was highly upset about it. Not MJF's girlfriend. The guy's girlfriend was in the ring with him. And then Osprey came out and made a save. This was shot on, apparently, VHS. I'm not sure. It might have happened in 1996.
Seriously, MJF just wrestled in Mexico. He main evented at Arena Mexico. Now he's in England. They should just air those matches on Dynamite. MJF's the only guy there that can get ratings, and everything they're putting on this show is terrible. Just air MJF around the world.
Hey, but you know what? There could be another meaning to that.
What do you mean?
Well, if they got a video just marked MJF trip around the world, maybe they better screen it first before they air it.
Once again, the perverted thoughts of Jim Cornette do not represent those of the living.
Who else is on this call? So Pac did a promo in the back. He's the #1 contender for the American title. Darby Allin did a promo in the woods talking about Jungle Jackoff and the Buckaroos hiring their friends. And this was interspersed with video of Darby riding a skateboard in the dark. Is this
everything
match...
he said was true, by the way? If you listen to actually what he was saying about the Bucks and everything, that was the funny part.
Well, because now they're just saying it out loud, but they, I don't know what their goal is, but yes, a lot of unqualified people were hired because of these people, so we must hunt them down. Is this match between Darby and Jungle Jack going to be the lowest combined weight ever for a professional wrestling match?
Maybe. Should they take advantage
Not involving the Minis or any of Lord Littlebrook's crew.
Should they take advantage of last week and change his name to Taco Bell Jack Perry?
He needs to make a run for the border.
Or just work some kind of deal with Taco Bell and you could sell the name, 2-for-1 Jack Perry. Taco Tuesday Jack Perry.
How about Chalupa Perry?
That's good.
See? So then Darby, who just was in the woods on the video, made an entrance, and before he could get 10 feet out of the entryway, Jungle Jackoff attacked him from behind and got some sloppy heat on him and took him to the backstage area, and they fought on the equipment cases and trash cans, and then they lowered one of those infamous elephant doors on him. And while he was stuck under the door, Jack is going to try to run the equipment case over him, but security stopped him. And as they were dragging Jungle Jack off back to his cage or wherever he resides, he was screaming, "I want a coffin match!" This was bad indie wrestling on national television, wasn't it?
Oh, it certainly was. And again, we've seen these gates before. We saw it to Nick Jackson a long time ago, and we've talked about how stupid it is. It's Jack Perry doing it. It's not Hercules Hernandez. It's Jack Perry. Any security guard there could have tackled him and taken him by the throat and thrown him to the ground to get him to stop doing this.
Yeah, there was 8 guys there, and they were like, "Oh my God, what are we going to do? He's gone mad." It was the Mongolian Stomper on the loose, right? Fucking Jack fucking Perry.
And he wants a coffin match for no good reason. And, the one move he has, and he did it when he attacked Darby on the stage, reveal yourself and smirk. That's the only thing he could do. That's what makes him a heel, is that alone. And again, we were hearing that Tony really believed in Jack Perry, wanted to go far with him. And like everyone else, Jack Perry's booking has just completely fallen into the dirt. We'll see what happens here, but I don't think anyone's buying Jack Perry. And again, his whole gimmick is based around CM Punk, so it's counterproductive.
If nobody's buying Jack Perry, maybe they need to reduce the price on him. You know what? That's what they could do. They could say, look, our pay-per-view is going to be $49.95, but if you'll let us put Jack Perry on it, we'll only charge you $39.95.
How much you want to bet they're going to do a glass spot at Wembley?
Well, but how will there be a pane of glass over the coffin instead of a lid? Or will there be, when they raise the lid, will the coffin be lined with glass?
What if he says, cry me a river, and they throw him in the River Thames?
Cry me a river as I float downstream. I'm shit out of luck up shit creek. Oh, cry me a river. See, we could do something with that.
Well, we'll see what they do with Jack Perry and Darby, but Dynamite continues.
Yes, and speaking of being up shit creek, Maria May did a taped promo about Tony Storm. And then Renee Moxley Good was in the back with Mitsu Arakawa. And she said something, but I don't know what. And she apparently is taking acting lessons from Mercedes because there was that element of dramatic breathiness involved. The WWE has stars talk us to death. AEW forgets the stars part sometimes. And we're just listening to clerks and bank tellers and accountants and goddamn simple, normal, everyday people that don't necessarily need to be on television talk to us, including their main announcer.
You know, the other problem is, and, Mina Shirakawa actually speaks pretty good English, but I think, and I know
Better than you speaks pretty good English.
Better than WWE. Well, let me rephrase that. WWE does things one way. It doesn't mean everyone else should do it. I think AEW is doing way too many backstage promos. I think it hurts the show. I mean, everything hurts the show, but they're doing so many backstage promos with just random people, and then sometimes they're challenging people to matches on other shows you don't watch, and everything feels canned. Like it never feels live or in the moment. All these Renee Paquette segments or interviews in the back all feel like they were taped a week ago every time you see them. Nothing's ever like in the moment. It's almost like you have two shows happening concurrently. The live show and then the tape segments shoved in there. And I think they're doing too many backstage promos.
Well, I think Renee, by the end of the show, she should be sweaty and disheveled because she's running from place to place to do these promos with these people. So then they had Pockets versus Roddy versus Kyle O'Reilly. And all I could think, well, go ahead.
And it's a stipulation. Did you get the stipulation?
Oh, yeah. Whoever wins gets to be the first person in the gauntlet casino blackjack fucking match to determine who gets to be I don't know what.
Are the other two not in the match, or are they just not going to be first in the match? Because why would anyone want to be first?
Why would you want to be first in the match?
That's what I'm saying. Why would anyone want to win the match to be first in the gauntlet?
Because then they got to outlast all the other people. You would think you would have wanted to throw this match, is what you're saying.
Unless the other two are just not in that match, and you're the only one who's going to be in that match of the three. Because otherwise, there's no reason to win.
Oh, God damn it. But why would you want to win something to be number one in the gauntlet?
You wouldn't.
Whether the other two were in it, why would you want to be number one? I'll just not be in it. Instead of letting everybody else beat me up.
I'm going to predict this is going to be the segment that loses the most viewers. Orange Cassidy versus Roderick Strong versus Kyle O'Reilly.
Well, because it went forever. And again, first of all, I'm personally not insulted, but irritated that as hard as Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick Strong have worked for 15 to 20 years to at least be legitimate athletes and put some work into their craft, and this is how Tony decides to insult them by not only putting them in a match with the company fucking mascot, but then having them put him over. They ought to double team spit in Tony's face. It's like Nick Goulas brought in Ric Flair and Harley Race to have him take bumps for my son George. Go to bed, Georgie. It's fucking, and then it went across the 9 o'clock hour But as a way to apparently hook the fans at 9 o'clock that might be switching by, they had Taven and Bennett and Mark Briscoe and Ishii, the Japanese Pillsbury Doughboy, interfere in the match and get in a big fight and do a dive and then leave. And the match went another 10 fucking minutes after the run ends. And then the mascot wins. This is another thing. If Tony Khan ever wanted any normal people to watch this show and give it a chance and take it seriously, to be involved in the fucking thing, every time he puts this fucking jack-off little joke on television at all, much less in a position of prominence, much less winning things over supposed other real professional wrestlers, is the only way you can draw money with this fucking guy or get anybody to want to watch this is if you promote You Will Set Fire to Orange Cassidy on live TV, not as a gimmick with gel and a flamethrower, but for real. We're going to pour gasoline on this fucking annoying fuck, this joke, this disrespectful piece of shit, and we're going to set him on fire for your enjoyment. Otherwise, that's why normal people don't watch this fucking program.
I don't think there's as big an audience to watch Orange Cassidy and Flames today as there was a few years ago. That's the sad part.
Most of the people have given up hope that would happen and just quit watching entirely. And then why were Claudio and Okodi in the big pre-taped interview with Renee Moxley Good? Why are they upset with each other? And they're going to fight next week in Cardiff. They're going to do Dynamite in Cardiff. After somebody has carted off
that'll be good.
All of their viewers.
No, that'll be good because the UK fans sing and there hasn't been any pulse from the AEW fans on Dynamite in years.
Well, Claudio was the well-spoken babyface, and Okodi looks like a bleach blonde Japanese accountant. It wandered in, and the only word that he enunciated clearly was bitch. And this cost Tony Khan more millions of dollars. This fucking joke. It just shows up to do a comedy line every once in a while. And then when he does get in the ring, it's like he was put together with fucking paper clips and scotch tape. And if he falls down, his body parts will fly apart.
Again, with Okada, it's the material. He speaks fine English. They gave him bad material. I'd rather listen to him talk than Claudio. Claudio's a fucking bore.
Well, this was a snooze fest all the way around.
You brought up Ishii before. We have not seen it. I may have it on my DVR still, but we had a lot of listeners tell us we had to watch Ishii versus Swerve Strickland on Collision, that it was embarrassingly bad was the way it was put to me. And then other people from Campbell by the Sea may have been defending it, saying that, Ishii's one of the great sellers and Terry Funk would have loved him.
What? Wait, what? What does he sell? Nobody will even touch him with the shit they're hitting him with as a work.
Well, it was the forearms.
And he sells nothing.
It was, I believe, the forearms from him and Swerve back and forth that people were citing, but I've not watched it. So
I've seen that movie, though. Every time that there's a forearm around Ishii, it's either phony looking or not sold or both. But anyway, have you noticed that in Christian Cage's group, that Nick Plain's mom is the second biggest person in it?
You've pointed this out several times, yes.
Well, Renee Moxley Good had an interview with them. And then the fireball that Jericho burned Hook with was replayed because Tony Schiavone was in the ring with Hook to do a live interview. Hook, who never speaks. Now we know why. Nobody could help this fucking kid not make an imbecile out of himself. Tony Schiavone, 40 years as a wrestling announcer, gives him the most awkward fucking question to respond to ever. Well, the thing everybody want to know, how's your eye? Hook has come out wearing a white wife beater, exposing his New York tan. He was barely any darker than the fucking wife beater, but he's wearing the fucking, what do they call it? The stocking cap or the ski cap, or what are those kind of caps?
I know what you're talking about. I don't know what the official name is.
Well, it's not a hoodie, because but it's the fucking cap. But he's got half of his head wrapped up like Boris Karloff in The Mummy, trying to sell his eye that he supposedly can't see out of. But you can see that all they've done is wrap him with gauze. There's no eye patch over the eye underneath the gauze. You can see through the gauze. Whoever approved that didn't talk to Doc Sampson or some doctor that might have ever bandaged an eye. And he's wearing the cap. He looked like this is the time. Come out, dressed like a goddamn adult, with the demeanor of a goddamn adult, and talk like a goddamn adult about what you're going to do to Chris Jericho. Instead, he leaned into the camera so you can see that perfectly clean snow white gauze that had just been put on him fucking 5 minutes beforehand, still wearing that fucking goofy cap, and screamed what he was going to do to Chris Jericho. And while he's weighing 150 pounds, he looked like a teenager on the street yelling into somebody's phone to do a TikTok video. Everybody let him down on that one. From makeup to goddamn creative to fucking production. And then Jericho and Big Bill and Brian Keith came out and said Hook's a stupid son of a bitch and he ain't going to fight him tonight. It'll be at Wembley. And that's going to be his last chance at the FTW title. And next week in Cardiff, it's Hook versus Big Bill. Hook is 160 fucking pounds and Big Bill's 7 feet tall. So let's do everything we can to make the fucking babyface look like he's a goddamn middle schooler before he fights Jericho. Are you following any of this, Brian?
And then you get to see Big Bill potentially choked out by Hook.
And well, that'll be icing on the cake.
The Chris Jericho stuff's been awful. Hook's booking is bad. I don't know what his potential or what his ceiling is or isn't. At least it wasn't another person with just an eye patch. We've seen that like 20 times on AEW.
And they couldn't even sandpaper his face a little bit. Because it was a fireball. It wasn't just a fucking poke in the eye with a sharp stick. He'd have some residual damage all around that. I think maybe they sandpaper him a little bit. Towel it.
Maybe Jericho can make the fireball like a real kind of thing. Like incorporate things that he really does. Like take a big swig of vodka and spit the vodka into the flame.
Well, they taught Ricky Steamboat how to blow fire to be the dragon. So Jericho's already got a mouthful of vodka ready to go at any point. He could just, if you just hold the fucking Bic lighter up in front of him, he could pretty much do it on the fly.
Oh, he's going to give him the Grey Goose. He's going to give him the Grey Goose. And there it is. I don't know what sound you just tried to make.
That was the blowing of the fire.
Oh. Oh, now I understand.
Yeah. So then came the Buckaroos. The Hardley Boys, the Cucamonga Kids, the Lollipop Guild.
Did you hear what they said right at the start of this? They said, we don't have any more commercials tonight. And there was a lot of time to go.
Oh, yeah. Well, this match went forever. I had to shave twice during this match.
These are always the lowest segments on the show. Is there a chance they can't get sponsors for the last segments of Dynamite? Or why would they all of a sudden have no sponsors for this?
No, it was their last they had no more commercial breaks because they had taken them earlier in the show because it's another ploy to try to artificially inflate their sagging numbers in the last half hour of the program. Because if they figure the more, we always lose viewers in the last part of the program, right? So if we give them a commercial break, that's a chance for somebody to tune out and not come back. So let's use all of our breaks up earlier in the show and not have as many at the end of the program to give people a chance to escape. That is the stratagem being employed.
Right. I mean, how long did we get counting the overrun? Was it like 25 minutes, almost 30 minutes with no commercials, right?
Something like that, yeah.
Wow.
So we'll see when the numbers come out, because we are still unaware of those. We're vamping on the program until those come out. But nevertheless, that's what the theory behind it is. Whether it'll work or not, who knows? Because they're always playing with the numbers or trying to massage the numbers, as a former bookkeeping type in a wrestling company used to say. But that's what. So then this was technically the main event spot where it's going to be the Buckaroos, even though Swerve has a match in the main event against Wheeler Useless. More on that in a minute. But again, here come Maddie and Nikki, and the Acclaimed jump them in the entranceway. They ain't got 10 feet through the fucking entrance, and boom, and they're again. And they have a sloppy fight on the stage and on the floor, and then they go to the ring and the bell rings. And it went forever. And you can imagine, it just, if you've seen one, you've seen them all. And then they squash the referee in the corner. Of course, it's the corpse referee, so it looks like he's a gentle breeze from death at any point anyway. How can he get licensed at his age? What is he now, 75, 80?
I don't even think he's that old, which makes it even worse. What do you think of the fact the crowd went completely silent at times?
Well, that's the thing, is nobody gives a shit. And they do these fucking goofy finishes and nobody gives a shit. Where they squash the referee, and then Matt kicks Caster in the balls and gets the title belt. And he's going to hit him, but Dax comes out and snatches it. And he draws back, and Maddie covers up like funny, like, ooh, don't hit me. But then when he realizes he isn't going to hit him, he spits at him. And then Dax, instead of hitting him with the belt, tackles him. And immediately the referee pops up and calls for a disqualification. And the people are like, what the fuck? What is all this? And the Acclaimed are mad at FTR, and they argue, and security comes in. And the Buckaroos leave, and the fans don't give a shit. And it's been 15 minutes easily of fucking television. And then they go to the back, and there's Renee with Christopher Daniels, who makes an awkward announcement. Because now he's authority again. That, FTR is going to fight the Acclaimed on Saturday on Collision. And the winners of that match will face the Buckaroos for the tag team title at Wembley Stadium. Because this was the first time that the Buckaroos had a title match in 4 months since they won the fucking thing, right? And now probably, because this is what indies do, mud shows do, small-minded people do, they're going to have some other kind of fuck up, and they're going to have a 3-way tag team match instead of a legitimate match between all 3 of these teams, so they can all vault off each other. And FTR, the only really full-grown men, can be the catchers. Is that where we're going with this?
I think where we're going is no one caresville. And that's the sad thing. There was clunkiness to the finish. When Dax got in there was like a clunkiness with the timing of everything. Did you notice that?
Yes. But I always notice clunkiness when the Buckaroos are involved, because they don't do things naturally.
Yeah, this tag team division is, it needs some help. That's all I'll say. I mean, Bucks wrestled FTR last year at Wembley. I guess you're giving those fans there a version of that once again. That was the least acclaimed of their matches. The one people talked about the least coming out of it. So let's do it again. But with the Acclaim, but now with rap.
Now with greener people involved.
Billy Gunn got a bigger pop than every one of those tag teams.
And when the Acclaimed are out there, man, when Billy Gunn comes out, yay, let's do something now.
Because he didn't come out with them for no good reason. All of a sudden, he just showed up in the middle of the match to get a pop.
Well, yeah, whenever he shows up, he is the most over person in any combination of the Acclaimed, FTR, and the Buckaroos right now. Because FTR, they don't give a shit anymore. They've been booked into insensibility. So anyway,
speaking of booking, what did you say?
Into insensibility and beyond.
Insensibility. In terms of booking insensibility, let's talk about the main event. I believe that was up next.
Well, no. You can't skip over the Bryan Danielson video.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that.
And Tony, you paid for some more music. Green Day. Do you know what the actual title is? I hope you had the time of your life. Do you know what the actual title of that song is?
Hepatitis.
No.
Oh, I don't know.
Good Riddance.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, I do know that.
Yes. And I used that on the video for the Ohio Valley Wrestling Last Dance event at the Louisville Gardens, when we had all the pictures of all of the great memories that had gone on, and the old time stars, and the back when the kids were kids and the men were men and the sheep were scared and all that type of thing.
This is a great video to point out how much more interesting Bryan Danielson was on the indies than he is right now.
Well, that's the thing. This was not really great nostalgia as much as old VHS of indie shows mixed in with some AEW clips. And yeah, it looked like Bryan had more fun going on back then. But here's what I want to just ask you, and then we'll move on to the main event, which ain't going to take long. Have they said what the fuck is what I want to ask you? So here's the situation we've got. We have Bryan Danielson, who the fans like and respect probably more than anybody else, almost anybody on this roster. Fair to say?
Maybe. In terms of respect, yeah, maybe. Yeah.
He's one of the more popular guys that they have, especially with the core audience. And so they put him against Swerve, who was their babyface world champion until they kind of made him look like shit. And then people kind of didn't care. So now they've switched him back full-fledged heel, apparently, for the world title. But before they announced this match, the people already know that Bryan Danielson has said that his contract is up and that he's promised his daughter he's going to quit wrestling full-time to spend more time with her. And so he's only at this point going to wrestle intermittently in things he wants to do or places he wants to go. Right?
Right. He himself has announced that, yes.
Right. And then he comes out and says on television, if I don't beat you, Swerve, and win the world title, I'll never wrestle again. Ever. Anywhere, is the inference here. So, either they're going to beat Bryan Danielson in his last match, which would be kind of the rule of thumb in wrestling. If you're retiring, you're not coming back. Put the guy over. But then not only is it somewhat of a downer for his apparently last or AEW match or last major stadium match or whatever the fuck, not only is it a bummer that he gets beat, but also that would mean he's decided he's never going to wrestle again anywhere, right? Or elsewise he'd be a bald-faced liar. So if he loses, it has to be his last match. But if he wins, then you put the world title on a guy that has already said he only wants to wrestle intermittently. And one would think that then you would just be doing it for the moment, but you've beaten your world champion that you've already booked pretty badly, and you've eliminated the opportunity for another of your full-time talents, such as Will Ospreay or MJF, to win the fucking world title and continue its lineage. How do you do this and who fucking comes out ahead here?
I mean, I think they booked themselves to the point where if Danielson doesn't win, you have a problem, because either that means he's going away right then and there and he's never coming back, or he's going to come back under a mask, which I don't think they'll do. So then he's
the Midnight Rider.
So then he's beating Swerve, and the fans, you would think the AEW fans get a happy short title run with an expiration date, unless you're going to make him a part-time world champion who's never around, who doesn't do any TVs ever again, which may be the best thing for AEW, to have a strong world champion who's never on these shows. I don't know, but we'll see what they do. He hasn't said he's going to fully retire. He said he's going to just wrestle every now and then, but he's going to be retired from full-time, from attending wrestling shows once a week.
Yeah.
I think they kind of have to put the belt on him, don't you? They need some kind of happy moment to end that show.
Well, but I thought that was going to be Ospreay beating MJF, because how they've known they were going to do Wembley for a fucking year. And so how have you not manipulated it some way to where that Will Ospreay will win the match in his fucking home country in the big stadium show, whatever the match might be? But then you're cutting MJF off when he's just getting started with this whole American title thing. So I don't know what they're fucking doing.
Unless Ospreay doesn't win. And again, remember, they have a pay-per-view, 2 weeks later to set up in Chicago?
Well, then maybe Ospreay wins over there, and then MJF fucking beats him back on good old American soil.
And again, there's Fletcher and Callis. You got to think they're going to be involved, and there's a way to make it so that MJF doesn't lose the title right away, gets a longer run with it, and Ospreay has something else to do.
God damn it. Again, they knew they were going to do this for a year. So anyway,
you say they, it's Tony. It's he, him.
The royal they. Swerve wrestled Wheeler useless in the main event. The bell rang for 5 minutes to 10 o'clock. And the emaciated Shell Station attendant went toe-to-toe with the world champion for a little while, but then Swerve got some heat on him and kicked him in the head and beat the shit out of him, and the referee stopped it. And Danielson came in to break it up, and Swerve bailed out and cut a promo on him from the aisleway. And then, after saying he would beat Bryan Danielson up in front of his daughter at Wembley Stadium, then he turned around and left, and Danielson went to check on Useless, and Swerve ran back out and kicked Danielson in the back of the head.
That looked good. That looked good. That was the best thing of the whole thing. The kick to the back of the head looked good.
Yeah, I believe you know why it looked good?
Because he kicked him right in the back of the head.
I believe because it was a tater. His boots were made out of potatoes. He kicked him right in the head.
You know, again, you want to tell the story of him having to beat the protege of Danielson. I think they've wasted a lot of time with Yuta being the guy they've put in this position to be that guy. He just doesn't look the part. And I don't think it works at all. So Swerve took a little while to beat a guy that looks like he would have been a jobber on TV. Sorry, Dustin. Looks like he would have been an enhancement talent on Superstars in 1990.
He would have been a jabroni on anything in 1990.
So yeah, they've done no favors to Swerve. Swerve probably hasn't done himself any favors either, just in terms of the creative stuff. And the only thing I think people care about in AEW right now is the MJF Ospreay stuff. And that's obviously not as hot as things have been in the past, but it was almost not on this show at all. That's the biggest thing in the company. Nothing about Kyle Fletcher. They had the MJF Ospreay video early in the show, and the stuff from England. They had to be more in the second hour. I mean, they should be just pounding. That's the big feud they have right now. It gets mentioned in a segment, and then it gets ignored the rest of the show.
How are they gonna pound it when neither guy's there? Did they have to fly over early to do publicity or something?
I don't think they had to, but Ospreay's obviously from England, and MJF he just wrestled in England. I don't know if he's still there or where he is. Maybe got a few week vacation out of it. I don't know. It's Tony Khan. You never know.
Well, anyway, where's the plumber? Where's Moxley?
He's taking a break from AEW.
Go ahead.
To lose in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu fights that keep popping up, or Not even grappling tournaments that keep popping up online.
From Newport, Kentucky. But he just gets to go when maybe he's giving us a break, is what it is. But he gets to go whenever he wants to.
Do you think you need, again, we're not Moxley fans, and, there has been talk in the past that he has turned, after booking vacation or time off, and he canceled it because AEW needed him. Everyone wants time off. Does AEW need someone with his stature in the company on a Wembley? Or is it okay for a guy like that to miss that show?
Well, my personal preference aside, he's the worst wrestler in the world, and I could go the rest of my life without seeing him and never miss a second of it. He's one of the fucking big, high-paid, alleged names in the company. If I was Tony Khan and I'm running Wembley Stadium, I am packing this thing with, to quote MGM, more stars than there are in the heavens. And the idea that this is not all hands on deck is just insane to me. Not that you want to book 150 fucking guys on one show, but you want to book the 30 biggest fucking names you've got on the thing, don't you?
You would think so, and we will preview the pay-per-view a little bit later. But Jim, that was AEW Dynamite.
It certainly was.
We shall return with the ratings right after this short travel through time. It doesn't seem to want to stop. Let me.
Yeah. Everybody wants it to stop, but it doesn't seem to want to.
We are here once again in the future. This amazing ability that we have. We are the only wrestling podcast I know of that travels through time. And we are here once again. Any thoughts on this travel through time, Jim?
Well, yeah. Well, I had a thought, but it died of loneliness. No, I had a thought while we were on the ship, hurtling through space, all the fucking cosmic rays and everything. But we've just talked about AEW television, and we took a break so the ratings could come out. And in that interim period, Brian, I've started to realize what's going on here with some of these people that Tony's been signing. And you know what rope-a-dope is, don't you? Yeah, the old rope-a-dope.
Muhammad Ali versus George Foreman.
Yeah, where, he just let him punch himself out. I wonder if this is a modified game of Lube the Rube. Now think about this for a second.
Where are we going right now?
Well, no,
exactly.
Because I know Vince is no longer there. Vince McMahon is no longer there, but that doesn't mean that in some cases they might not use some of the same business practices or tactics. And when the Midnight Express and I talked to Vince that first time in 1986, and we decided not to do it because we had such a great spot with Crockett. But one of the things that he told us was, he said, if you need to, use me to drive your price up. And coincidentally, we didn't even have to, it didn't come to that, because when Tully's friend, oh God, what was his name? John, I think, worked at fucking US Air, saw us in Charlotte on the flight to New York, and word got back to Crockett. That was when he presented us with we were on a contract. I think the guarantee we had at that point was like $75,000 a year. And we got the 3-year contract for $375 guaranteed, which in today's money is somewhere around, $1.4 million probably. But anyway.
So John told Tully, and then what happened? In your eyes, how did Tully leak this back to the office?
Well, no, John Valdastri was his name. It wasn't that necessarily that Tully did it, but John knew the boys. Charlotte was a US Air hub back before they absorbed Piedmont Airlines, which that was the airline that Crockett flew a lot of guys on out of Charlotte. And he worked there, and so he would upgrade guys, and he would help guys change flights, and because the boys were always going in and out. And he and Tully were especially friendly, but he knew a lot of the guys. He fixed all of us up. But the thing is, when we went on a day off where we thought that, okay, we're just going to get in one car, we're going to go to the airport, we're going to take this flight, we're meeting Vince, not at the office, but at a hotel in Stamford. and then we're going to back and boom, and nobody will ever know we were gone. We're boarding the fucking plane. The first person we run into is John Valdosta, and he looked up at the fucking to LaGuardia. And we said, "Hey, John." And he never, "Where's the other boys?" "Oh, they must be going somewhere else." I don't know what we said, right? So coincidentally, like I said, immediately upon the next week or whatever was when Crockett had those guaranteed money contracts. So anyway, I've also heard Vince McMahon from his own lips say that to other people. Use me to get more money out of them. And he did that for Bret Hart, to be quite honest, when he let him out of the day. Use me to get your fucking deal back or whatever. Don't blah, blah, blah. That's all been regurgitated over and over. How many people that the WWE and Tony Khan that we know, I'm not saying a bidding war where they're like doing the fucking Storage Wars auction, 1,000,005, 1,000,007. But how many people were both talking to both companies and Tony won out? We heard about Will Ospreay, famous for the grind, right? Did he want the grind or did he not want the grind? We don't know about the grind. And Okada, people were saying, oh, they're talking to Okada. Well, maybe they wanted to get into Japan. And Mercedes Moon.
Yeah, right before she signed with Tony, all of a sudden we started hearing that she was negotiating with WWE again.
Yes. And then you can further remember when they were talking to the Buckaroos. And remember when Edge was coming, Edge left and Tony gave him a better deal. And you could say same to Mark Henry. When he left, he wanted to be more involved in either training or whatever he's wanted, and they didn't apparently want him. But he got a lot of money to do very little in AEW for the past 3 or 4 years. And then that deal is up. And when that deal is up, his son suddenly signs with NXT and he's back on the television. The point I'm making is Tony's winning a lot of these, right? What if they're fake fucking finishes? Because it wasn't something that Vince wouldn't do to say, hey, you might not want to come now, but you might want to come later. But right now, he always wanted to babyface himself to the boy, use me to get more money. Well, what if they're talking to these people that, let's say that I am the WWE and I make a lot of money, and you, Brian Last, are Tony Khan and you have a lot of money. And I know that you want to sign the newest indie darling or somebody from another country or Jack Double Barrel Cannon. Everybody's all making a big deal on the internet about Jack Double Barrel Cannon. So what if I call old Jack Cannon in and say, I'll give you $1 million. But of course, I'm going to own your name and I'll change it. And I'm going to own your likeness and intellectual property. And you're going to work X hundred days a year, and give him a sales pitch that you don't necessarily want him to take. But you've set an offer, a price. And then old Jack Cannon goes over to fucking Tony. Tony says, well, I'll give you $1.5 million and you can own your shit, or you can be an actor, or you can only work 1 day a week, or you don't have to come then if you don't want to, or all the ancillary things that everybody that signs with AEW says they love about the company and the job. And then the WWE, they particularly may not have wanted the fucking guy to begin with, but since they've got billions of dollars, if they fuck up and get one every once in a while, who gives a shit? Meanwhile, they're setting Tony's price that he's got to beat and treat him like bosom buddies too. And Tony's winning more of these than he's losing. And I'm starting to think that in some cases, what do you think? Is the WWE serious, or are they saying, let's see if we can lube the rube?
But there's an important thing that you're not putting into the equation here. When Vince McMahon would deliberately say that to both make himself a babyface to talent, but also because that's what he wanted. He wanted competitors like Vern Gagne, specifically Jim Crockett Jr., but he wanted Bill Watts, everyone. He wanted everyone to overpay because he knew that they were wrestling promoters living on the money of wrestling. You don't have that with Tony Khan. You know, it doesn't mean they have billions. He's got billions. Well, I mean, his dad's got billions. So it's not like it even affects him in any way, unless at some point his dad said, let's see the P&L. Let me see how much you're spending versus how much you're actually generating. But we haven't seen any sign that that's going to happen.
Well, no, but here's the thing. It's not like it's going to be the end of the company. It's fun. It's fucking fun. Brian, let's say somebody stole some money from you and me. We would have fun, even if it cost us more money, bringing that motherfucker to a miserable point in his life, right?
I can't comment on anything that may involve pending litigation, but
so I'm just saying.
But you can't take things lying down. You have to make sure that you teach people a lesson. One of the lessons has to be you can't do this shit again to anyone else, and you will respect that shit.
Okay, we're starting to take a sad trip, but I was just giving you a for instance. And the point is, what if Nick Khan and Triple H and a bunch of the gang are sitting up there going, I wonder how much you'll pay for this fucking guy. Let's offer him $1.5 million a year for 3 years and see if Tony will beat it.
But they know he will. I mean, it's not even.
Yes, and it's fun to watch him because now.
That's the thing. They wanted Okada. They wanted these guys. Tony offered them,
but
not just more lucrative deals, but just better for the wrestler, not necessarily the promotion. The fact that Ospreay's flying home all the time and just they couldn't match that.
I'm saying if I was still in a Stamford office, I could see a bunch of people having fun with this. Even if they want somebody, if they know that Tony's gonna goddamn break the bank, as they say, why not? Well, let's see how far he'll go. Let's bid, and it'd just be fun. Maybe they've got an office pool going. I'm just telling you.
You know, and then it really screws up the talent on the other end. Like, Okada's probably on the back end of his career in the States.
You think?
But he signed a long-term deal with Tony. I don't know if he's going to sign with WWE after that or just go back home. Ospreay's still young. Mercedes Moné.
Ooh.
Let's just put a number out there. Let's say she's getting $5 million a year.
No, Jesus Christ.
Let's say she's going to get that for a number of years. Notwithstanding if she boosts merch, ticket sales, pay-per-view buys, streams, whatever it may be at that point, she's going to get that money. At the end of that contract, Tony will have to ask himself, what am I going to do? Am I going to continue on at this rate? Or am I going to move on? If he moves on, she's never going to get that kind of money anywhere else. It almost screws her. Not that she doesn't want the money right now, but she's now locked into
Why would you need money after that?
People need money.
Oh, give me $5 million a year for 3 years and see if you ever talk to my fat ass again.
What kind of challenge is this? I'll take the same challenge. Give me $5 million for 3 years.
Well, give me 6.
Oh, fuck. Come on.
Yeah, see, that's the way it works. You bid the thing up.
Selfish.
No, I don't give a fuck how old you, unless you're a complete fucking nitwit who wants to drive a fucking Maserati around and act like a goddamn movie star. If you make $15 million over a 3-year period and you ever work again, you're a fucking moron. Unless you want to. Where were we going with that?
Anyway, a Maserati is nice to drive like once if it's not yours and you don't have to worry about any of the bills for it. That's my experience.
But anyway, I'm just saying that it would be fun. They know that Daddy got money. You're a rich kid. They know Daddy got money, but it would still be fun to make the other guy spend more than he needs to, and certainly more than a commodity or a product or a piece of merchandise or an action figure or whatever is worth to get it. So there could be some shenanigans taking place, is what I'm trying to say to you.
You know, this also goes to the bigger problem with AEW, the culture of AEW, I guess we'll say, Tony Khan's leadership. You know, in the early days, not that money wasn't the primary thing for a lot of talent, but in the early days, there was a positive energy around it publicly.
Yes.
And it was a wonderful place to work. and there was no drama. And the locker room kept secrets. Remember, Brody Lee was sick. No one said a word. This is the same locker room, some different people, but a lot of the same people. And they talk about all sorts of shit now. And
you can't shut them up.
Now you have to overpay to get someone there because it's like WCW in the early 90s. It's not a place you want to be if you're serious about your career. You want to get the fuck away from Tony. It's not, see, that's the thing. You have to almost separate AEW, the idea of a number 2 promotion that's well funded, with the fact that it's run and always going to be run by Tony Khan. Because Tony is the core problem. If you are a great talent and you deserve all the money you're getting, and he's the person overseeing your booking and formatting the show, your career's going to die. He's not capable of doing it. He's not good at it. He's proven it. And he's not capable of doing it. That's the thing. But you'll go there and you'll get a bunch of money. You'll get to book programs with you and your friends. But the other thing, going back to your point, Jim Crockett having to start paying guys more and more to keep them from WWE is a contributing factor to Jim Crockett Promotions' financial problems.
Actually, I can disagree with you on that. And here's why.
You think it's just the pay-per-view?
It was the promotions and the TV network and the costs of doing that. Because here's the thing, the contract that he signed with us in, what was it, May 1986 was $100,000 first year, $125,000 second year, $150,000 the third year, guaranteed minimum. We made much more than that the first year and more than that the second year, and then the following year we renegotiated. And even though we didn't make as much as we should have from Crockett, the point I'm making is that us as main event talent, we were still on payoffs on the houses, making more money than our minimum guarantee. But what was an extreme drain and burden is the expansion of buying the different promotions and then going into Florida, going into Kansas City, then expanding across country with live events, and then the big UWF thing. That was the fucking problem. And the plane. And the goddamn...
The second plane, yeah.
The second plane, and the office in Dallas, because it was a major media center where the brain fucks that said they were going to make all this money on fucking syndicated television were headquartered.
Well, then here's the question. Are we to believe then that all of that would have been paid off if Starrcade had not been fucked with by Vince? Or that there would have still been financial problems even if Starrcade had come off without a hitch and had however many pay-per-view buys across the country?
Well, okay, examine this. Crockett was $2 million in the hole. $2 million, which today is like goddamn catering. But he was $2 million in the hole when he said, oh shit, we got to sell. We're worried about our mother's retirement. So that was not even the amount of money that they had spent on these promotions and the fucking TV network and blah, blah, blah. If they hadn't done that and concentrated on what they had, they to that point would not really have lost money. Or if Starrcade had gone through, God damn it, what was it then? Was it $30? And the cable system got a little over half. So if they'd have $10, let's say they got $10 for each pay-per-view. And they did in those days, what was Vince doing? What did the Great American Bash do? I can't remember. I ain't got it in front of me. But our first, let's say it was full cable coverage and it did 100,000 buys at $10. There's $1 million. That's half the amount they were in the hole when they were panicking. That's what I'm saying. It wasn't like, oh God, this is a catastrophe. It was only a catastrophe to somebody that was not used to losing 7 figures over the course of like a year in a wrestling business.
Well, Vince's objective in doing that and saying that was to drain these guys. That was one of his goals in the wrestling wars, was he knew he could drain his opponents of assets. In fighting him and doing what they could to keep him away, they were going to kill themselves and lose talent in the process. Tony is a different animal. Like I said, with him, you can't worry about draining him of money. There's no talent that'll cost more than that video game. You can't think of it that way. So with that, it's just about how much will he pay. The joke's on you if you're laughing and he's shrugging, and he doesn't give a fuck. He's Richie Rich.
Yeah, but I still think there's money to be made in the WWE and the office pool that they would take on. Will he give $3 million to this fucking schlub?
Who's the next one?
That's all I'm saying.
How much you think he's going to give Ricochet?
Oh, he'll break the bank for him because then he can team him up with Hologram, and it can be Hologram and Telegram.
Oh, no, I think he wants to do Will Ospreay versus Ricochet. That was the big Indie or New Japan match.
Oh, good Lord. Well, I'm sure that, but yeah, Ricochet is set.
Does Ricochet get 7 figures a year from Tony?
Well, with the financial scale that the WWE is on now, even a guy that's in the middle or upper middle may be approaching that. So I think he almost has to. Besides, didn't he give fucking Riho $400,000? So if Riho is $400,000 to work 8 times a year, then I think you got to give Ricochet $1 million, don't you?
Do you think Riho will work 8 times in 2024? Has she worked that many times? She couldn't have.
I think she's hurting. Yeah. So, he's running the motion picture country home for wrestlers.
Jeez. It's amazing too. It's like, again, all the big money people who are the big star, like Kenny Omega's just been gone forever. I know he has, allegedly, diverticulitis, but there's a major salary, a major star off the TV. They signed his buddy Ibushi. That was a fucking disaster. He's still under contract. We'll see him. He's coming back at some point when he has feet or whatever the hell's problem.
Yeah, they signed him for all his money and then they amputated his fucking feet.
Nakazawa, who has a great job, apparently he's just with Kenny. He doesn't even have to, do anything else. And then Riho, now she's hurt again.
Moxley's on vacation again.
Adam Cole has moved back to Pennsylvania. Wardlow is missing in action.
Wait a minute, he didn't beat Miro. Miro went to fucking Romania, didn't he? Or is that where he's from?
No, Bulgaria.
I knew it was one of them areas.
That's right. Miro, you could put Miro on the list. I think he's still under contract. Miro's in Bulgaria. Who else? Wardlow.
Well, we can't remember who all has disappeared, but they're still getting paid.
Is Hobbs hurt or?
Hobbs is hurt.
Takeshita's in Japan.
Oh, I forgot about him.
Anna Jay's in Japan. I've seen footage of that. She looks great over there. I always told you, and all the women there
look differently over there than she does over here.
Well, she's a very attractive woman, but what she's doing over there, the idea of making her a little better by having her work over there, when she gets to NXT, she'll be the biggest star they have there because I think she still has more upside than almost any woman in AEW. But she's not on their show now. And their show is just rotten. It's just rotten.
Well, speaking of which, did anybody watch this particular program they did Wednesday night or not, or last night, or whenever the night? We've traveled through time. I've lost track.
This was Wednesday night. It is still, Dynamite is still on Wednesdays in the future.
Well, yes, but the day that we are talking about it could have not been last night, except if it was the night before.
Well, AEW Dynamite, August 14th, 2024, on TBS from 8 to 10:07 p.m. On average, watched by 703,000 viewers.
Wow!
Dynamite ranked number 1 for the day on cable in men 18 to 49.
But, okay, so, because I was going to dispute something, Tony Khan tweeted out, apparently, that they were number 1 on cable for the whole day and just put a period on it.
18 to 49.
Okay. So now that might make a little sense, but no, they were not the most watched program on cable television on Wednesday over all the programs and all the networks. That would be stretching credulity somewhat.
Yeah, but they're losing. I'm looking at the breakdown here. WrestleNomics is the one who compiled all this. Men 18 to 34, 60,000 viewers, down 6%. So that one keeps going down.
Well, but now the Olympics are dusted, done and dusted, as they say across the pond, right?
I believe so, yes.
So they got an extra, what was it, 80,000, 85,000, or whatever people to come back from the last couple of weeks.
That's right. All right, let's go to the quarterly breakdown here.
Well, don't make me twist your arm or anything.
This will tell the real story of what's going on. Quarter 1, 8 to 8:15 p.m. Once again, these were compiled by WrestleNomics. Mercedes Moné versus Hikaru Shida, and the post-match with Camille and Stone Cold Britt Baker, 836,000 viewers.
And I believe I predicted and predicated earlier when we were talking about it, well, that's going to be the highest quarter hour, so it doesn't really prove anything with Mercedes in it because it's always the highest quarter hour. Was that indeed the highest quarter hour?
It was indeed the highest quarter hour, not in the key demo, but in the overall number.
So what effect did that first segment have on the second segment?
Well, the second segment, with no 1 minute of the Big Bang Theory to start off, 8:15 to 8:30 p.m., the Jeff Jarrett, Jay Lethal, Hangman Adam Page backstage angle, leading to Lethal versus Page, with picture-in-picture, and an MJF Will Ospreay video, 755,000 viewers.
Okay, honestly, that's not as big a drop as they usually do. Last week, I think it was like 100,000 or more, wasn't it? So they only lost, Thursday, 45, said 81,000 people.
Now, this is the high point in the 18 to 49-year-old male category, 347,000 viewers. Quarter 3, 8:30 to 8:45 p.m. An ad break, the Pac and Darby Allin backstage promos, Jack Perry and Darby Allin's backstage angle, an ad break, 706,000 viewers.
Ouch. Okay, so I don't know whether the ad breaks drove them away or whether it was the backstage promos that drove them away, but they lost another 49,000. Okay, now they might better stabilize pretty soon or they're not going to hit their average.
Well, there was a segment I predicted earlier would be the one to drive away the most viewers. Let's see what this did. 8:45 to 9 p.m., quarter 4. The Mariah May promo, the Mina Shirakawa promo, and the start of Roderick Strong versus Orange Cassidy versus Kyle O'Reilly. 666,000 viewers.
Oh, 666, the mark of the beast. In this case, it's the mark of the mascot.
Just the mark.
No, the mark is the one paying the mascot. So there's another 40,000. And now we have lost 170,000 viewers in the first hour.
Well, we now go to hour 2, the big 9 o'clock hour, quarter 5, 9 to 9:15 p.m. The continuation of Strong versus Cassidy versus O'Reilly with picture-in-picture ads. The Claudio Castagnoli, Kazuchika Okada backstage face-to-face promo, and an ad break, 684,000 viewers.
Okay, so 18,000 curious people wandered in at the top of the hour and began wondering what they were watching.
Well, they continued that wander into quarter 6, 9:15 to 9:30 p.m. The Christian Cage backstage promo, the Hook and Learning Tree confrontation, an ad break, and the start of Young Bucks versus the Acclaimed with no more commercials the rest of the show. Actually, that's not true. But Young Bucks versus the Acclaimed, 684,000 viewers.
So, well, that's odd. That's completely flat, so it's neither good nor bad. It's indifferent is what it is.
Well, the indifference continues into quarter 7, 9:30 to 9:45 p.m. The Young Bucks versus the Acclaim continued. 2 rounds of picture-in-picture. 678,000 viewers.
God, okay, so 6,000 more people again said the Young Bucks this long, no thank you, please.
Well, let's please go to quarter 8. I remind you there's a 7-minute overrun. 9:45 to 10 p.m. Young Bucks versus the Acclaim continued. The post-match with FTR, Billy Gunn, Oh, and that's it. FTR and Billy Gunn, a Christopher Daniels backstage promo, the Bryan Danielson video, and the start of Swerve Strickland versus Wheeler Yuta. 661,000 viewers.
Oh.
7-minute overrun. Continuation of Strickland versus Yuta and the Danielson Strickland live angle. 606,000 viewers.
Jesus Christ. They've killed Modern Family. Modern Family, by the way, is following again instead of Impractical Jokers. Maybe they're taking turns so as not to damage either program. All right, so in regulation, they went from 836 to 661. That's a loss of 100 and, oh, God damn it, 39, 69, 175,000 people. And then they dropped another 55,000 in the last 5 minutes of the thing.
Hold on, I'm pulling up the true number, taking out the first quarter and the overrun.
That overrun isn't really helping them anymore, is it?
No, it's hurting them. And again, they usually keep key stuff for there. I mean, this is Swerve and Danielson, and no one stayed for it. 690,000 viewers is the true number.
Without the quarter one and the overrun, that's what is in the body of the show.
Without the minute of Big Bang Theory that weighs the first quarter up every single week, and has since the beginning. And
also there's some, crossover amongst people who might not want to change the channel, but it never lasts.
I see a lot of commercials for Dynamite on TV. If I'm watching like the news, I've seen it on CNBC. I've seen it all over the place. And I just don't think it's effective. Again, to the general public, just selling people flying through the air and talking about the greatest people wrestling there means nothing. It's personality. And everyone's personality fucking stinks on this show.
Well, you can advertise all you want. Hey, free shit. It's fucking manure. It stinks and an animal crapped it out of its ass, but it's free. All you got to do is go pick it up. That doesn't mean that a lot of people are going to go goddamn scoop some up.
Well, those were the ratings. Feel free to scoop that up.